one. You know, against the field, it's not a bust. Look, the best team doesn't always win. Even if the Vikings are right and I'm wrong, because I don't see where Kirk Cousins is better than Case Keenum. In fact, if I had to choose one, I'd choose Case Keenum. They both played in the league last year. Case Keenum didn't have Dalvin Cook, and Case Keenum had a better season than Kirk Cousins, the second best QBR in the NFL. I thought he was quite good, and he won a playoff game. As I said, call it a miracle throw. But meanwhile, Drew Brees had to engineer a score just to take the lead in that game. It's not like Case Keenum was playing behind the whole time. And then when he needed to, he had the miracle throw. So you win a playoff game, you win that playoff game against Drew Brees after a fantastic regular season without your running back, and you're gone. And in your place is brought in a guy who talent evaluators clearly feel is at least marginally better. And you're giving that guy a lot of money. That doesn't mean, I don't think that was a good move. But that doesn't mean if they don't make the Super Bowl, it was necessarily a bad idea. Not only does the best team not always win, but they got trounced by Philadelphia. And the Eagles, to me, on paper, particularly with Carson Wentz, if he's healthy, is still the class of the division. So the Vikings could even maybe get better. I could be wrong about Keenum, and they could be right about Cousins, and they could still not make the Super Bowl, even with Dalvin Cook. That doesn't make their season a bust. That's why the odds are 12-1. Well, no one is the favorite against the field.
Well, the point is, first of all, I think it's important that America understands that if your aspiration is mediocrity, if your aspiration is being a one-year wonder and that's it, you want to work for Max Kellerman. I'm trying to tell you right now, he'll pay you, take care of you the whole bit. Max Kellerman will take care of you. So Case Keenum, who had a career 9-15 record as a starter, never completed more than 60% of his passes until this season, has a breakout year in Minnesota and stop the presses. I mean, everything goes out the window. He's the man. Oh, whatever. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. I hear you talking. I said Case Keenum. I didn't bring him no Rich Gannon. I said Case Keenum. Here's the bottom line. Is it a bust? Well, if Kirk Cousins balls out, but the Vikings don't make the Super Bowl, I get your argument. But Kirk Cousins has to produce. $84 million guaranteed every penny for 3 years for a dude that you got from the Redskins that's been in the Redskins as a starting quarterback for 3 years, only made the playoffs once, has never won a playoff game, and you guarantee $84 million to him with that defense, with Dalvin Cook returning, with you just being off an NFC Championship game? If Kirk Cousins doesn't ball and Minnesota doesn't make the Super Bowl, you damn right it's a bust. There is no question
if they don't make the Super Bowl.
$84 million? $84 million
it's a
guaranteed?
bust if they don't make the Super Bowl. Okay.
Yes.
I know that.
I understood the question perfectly.
They lost by 1,000,000 points to Philadelphia.
It doesn't
you think
matter.
Kirk Cousins is worth 1,000,000 points over Case Keenum?
Excuse me. Guess what? If you win, you get home field advantage. You don't have to be at Lincoln Financial Field. And oh, by the way, they were evenly matched. They just didn't show up because they were living off the miracle in Minneapolis. That's what a week earlier. That's what the hell happened. Kirk Cousins, Case Keenum had one good year, and here you are willing to win. Everybody should want to work for you. Just show up 1 week.
How many good years has Kirk Cousins had, Stephen A?
I'll tell you what. Let me put it this way. There's no question. Number one, it is Super Bowl or bust for the Minnesota Vikings. Because when you give this kind of contract, there's no question what you're saying is this guy's the difference. This guy's the difference. He would have made the difference last year. Because no one right now wants to point to the fact that outside of Xavier Rhodes in the secondary on the perimeter at the cornerback position, look, the the New Orleans Saints exploited the Minnesota Vikings, and the Philadelphia Eagles actually took them out to the woodshed and exploited them outside of Xavier Rhodes in the secondary, which was as big a problem in that football game in combination with pass rush as there was as to the reason why they lost that football game. Everybody wants to put it on Case Keenum and say he's not good enough to elevate the rest of the football team and make up for some of the deficiencies that they may have from week to week. Well, tell me how Kirk Cousins is good enough to make up for some of the deficiencies on that football team. Please tell me that Kirk Cousins would have been the difference in that football game, and I'll tell you you're crazy. He's not the difference. Because when it comes down to situational football, which is what we're talking about as what separates good from great and separates great from transcendent, great from Super Bowl performers, great performers, great quarterbacks, transcendent players, players that are worth $84 to $86, $90 million fully guaranteed. They're the ones who can do that. They're the ones who make the difference. They are the difference. They are the difference. And if Washington truly felt as though Kirk was the difference, he would be in Washington because they would have given him whatever he wanted.
Right, it was a bad signing.
But you know what? Look, the statistics don't bear it out.
But that doesn't mean it's Super Bowl or bust, Lewis.
It may not mean that. It may not mean that to you. It means that to them. And trust me, there are people in Minnesota who I guarantee you right now who are sitting in the front office going, it's Super Bowl or bust for us. It is without a doubt when you hand out this kind of money to this kind of player. If you hand it's Super Bowl or bust. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Let me say this.
That's the attitude. It's got to be on the team, that attitude. But in reality, there's a reason they're 12-1 against the field, because there are a lot of other good teams, too. And as you said, they didn't lose by this much to Philly. They got blown out by Philly.
Max, you know what part I think you're missing? You're looking at the $84 million. And here's what I'm trying to say to you. It's not just that it's $84 million. There is no quarterback, correct me if I'm wrong about this, Lewis, there is no quarterback in the NFL that has a fully guaranteed deal. You got sign-up bonuses or whatever. They didn't just give him $84 million. They said every penny of it is $84 million. To me, that's more significant than a dude getting Garoppolo getting a $137.5 million contract, but having $75 million guaranteed. What I'm saying is, when you say you're guaranteeing every penny of this man's dollars, I'm sorry, and he's the only quarterback in the league that has that deal. That's pressure, and that equates to bust if you don't get it done.
And can I say this, too, about quarterbacks, please? Can I say this, too, about quarterbacks? And look, many people who want to go ahead and push Case Keenum down want to point to the fact that, well, before this past year, he had this completion percentage, this passer rating, this touchdown-interception ratio. Just remember this, though, about quarterbacks. Every quarterback's success and failure, every quarterback is a system quarterback, every quarterback in general, outside of the transcendent guys, are dependent upon their surroundings, depending upon their relationship with their play caller, dependent upon the play calling acumen of the play caller that they have, put them into situations that allow them to succeed. And there's no question about it. Case Keenum had a rapport with Pat Shurmur last year, had a rapport with Stephon Diggs, had a rapport with Adam Thielen, had a rapport with Kyle Rudolph in such a manner that it brought out the very best in him. I don't think he's a one-year wonder at all. I really don't. I think now you have seen a growth spurt in Case Keenum that I believe he can sustain. I believe he can.
I have another question for you quickly. If you're the GM of a team, and in your evaluation, Kirk Cousins does give you a premium over Case Keenum. You've looked at it, and then you watch him play over a 3-year deal you give him, and you say, nope, that was the right choice. He was better than Case Keenum. But you just never made the Super Bowl. Other things happened. As you know, a lot of players on a team, a lot of things can go wrong, including calls, all kinds of stuff. Would you be satisfied with your decision to give him the money?
Well, you know, when you look at it in the overall context like that, look, if he absolutely balls out and his statistics far exceed anything that he has produced in the past and far exceed what you believe Case Keenum can give him, yeah, I guess if internally we set those expectations that as long as he does what he needs to do, then great. Yeah. But that's not the reality here, right? Why are quarterbacks judged with win-loss records? We don't always do that, do we? No, we look at whether or not they can get you to the promised land, and he better get them to the promised land.
At $28 million per season, Cousins is now the highest-paid player in NFL history, and the Vikings' top 3 quarterbacks from last season have all agreed to deals elsewhere: Case Keenum, and obviously Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Bradford. Lewis, thanks so much for being with us.
You bet. Okay.
Thanks a lot, man.
Still to come on